Hi, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Not Aspirational. I'm your host, Hannah Aaron Brown. Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. I'm recording this on Monday, on Met Gala Monday. Can I just say, I don't give a fuck about the Met Gala. I really don't. I'm sorry. Also, full disclosure, I'm in kind of a rancid mood. I am about to get my period, and I'm in one of those moods where, okay, this is kind of a deep cut, and some of you might disagree with it, but bear with me. There is a scene in the criminally underrated film Love and Other Drugs, where Anne Hathaway's character, now to be fair, Anne Hathaway's character in Love and Other Drugs has Parkinson's disease, and I definitely do not. There's a scene where Anne Hathaway's character knocks something off of like a countertop and it shatters to the floor because of her Parkinson's disease, and she just crashes out and screams because she's so overwhelmed and frustrated and upset by the fact that she's battling this terrible disease. Now, I don't have Parkinson's disease, but my state right now is giving Anne Hathaway in Love and Other Drugs when she knocks that thing off the table and just goes, that's how I'm feeling. I'm just one little misstep. Someone comes at me the wrong way, I could fucking scratch their face off with a fork. So, yeah, I can't wait to get my period and feel like a normal person again, because right now I feel like just a huge, evil bitch. Also, speaking of Anne Hathaway, I'm going to see Devil Wears Prada tonight and Devil Wears Prada 2, and I'm so excited. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and I saw that when I was getting my tickets online, and I thought, amazing. And Jake was like, I thought you hated when movies were over an hour and 45 minutes. And I was like, I'm going to stop you right there. When it's a straight man movie, like when it's The Rip or when it's, The Irishman or The Godfather, I'm like, wrap it up in an hour 45. You can figure it out. When it's a girly pop movie, when it's Wicked, when it's Devil Wears Prada 2, I'm like, make it 3 hours and 15 minutes. Make it a solid 3:15 and I'll be happy as a ding-dang clam. Back to the Met Gala. So it's Met Gala Monday. By the time this comes out, no one's going to care anymore, but I'm going to weigh in anyways. I really want to care, but I just think where I'm at personally in my personal development, I just I can't get into these displays of fame and wealth. And I don't know if it's just because I'm jealous that I'm not there, but also I think I'm pretty self-aware at this point as I approach 35, and I don't think it's just that. I think it's just oh, look, there's Emma Chamberlain, looking thin and sleepy, dressed like a bird. Oh, look, there's Sierra Miller. Obviously, we root for Sierra, but wearing a dress that looks like a sexy bed sheet. I'm just kind of oh, look, there's Ashley Graham. Her hair looks like it's wet. Oh, that's so chic. I'm just kind of tired. I'm exhausted. I think that's the thing. I'm at capacity. That's my abbreviation for capacity. I'm at capacity with just rich, famous people stuff. It's I feel like the Oscars just happened, and I'm oh, it's already Met Gala Monday. And then I shout out to friend of the pod, Tess Palomo. I was reading this piece she wrote on her Substack about the Met Gala and how it's the whole thing is kind of weird to experience as a normie, because on one hand you're I have FOMO, but then you're also ew, Jeff Bezos, gross. And it just feels in this political climate, it's so charged and weird, and I'm just I'd rather just go to the movie theater in my recliner, watch all 2 hours and 15 minutes of Devil Wears Prada 2 and just unplug. I can't fucking do it right now, which I guess is ironic because Devil Wears Prada 2 it's a story about the people who go to the Met Gala and who make the Met Gala happen. So it's I don't know, but the fact that it's a work of fiction makes it feel spiritually safe to me. I'm also very interested to, when I see the movie, see all the celebrity cameos, particularly Paige DeSorbo's, because I know that Paige is just being teed up to get into acting, and I just want to see how far did they push her acting wise, or is it just going to be her looking over her sunglasses being you look amazing, Andy, at a fashion show. That's what I'm seeing for her. But what if she has 2 whole scenes and she's giving Meryl levels of acting? I'm intrigued by the amount of cameos they have, because sometimes every now and then you'll be can that person act? And then they're randomly really good. Kylie Jenner. Everyone's holy shit, Kylie's better than Kim at acting. And that's exciting. I like a movie that serves as a vehicle for a bunch of hot, charismatic people to get to put their actor hat on, their little theater kid hat, and see what they can do. I think that's so fun. It's so fun. It's like a celebrity cameo in a movie is when you run into a friend when you're out of state on vacation, and you're oh my God, Ellen, I didn't realize we were staying at the same resort in Florida over winter break. That's crazy. I'm saying that as someone whose family never went out of town on winter break, but One time I did run into my camp friend Ellen in like Wisconsin, and that was like really crazy. Anyways, moving right along. Oh, another life update is yesterday my sister and I went to a Tone It Up event in Manhattan Beach. I had mentioned we were going. When I tell you, this event felt like a big hug to my 20-something-year-old self. Because when I found Tone It Up in 2014, I was like, I'm going to get into all the workouts. And I obviously watched the Bravo show Toned Up, so I loved Karina and Katrina. And I was like, I'm going to get into all the workouts. And in 2014, that was like right around when my mom got sick. And I like moved to the city and I was like, I'm going to be so healthy. And I would do their workouts and I ate like shit and I drank every day. But I did those fucking workouts, okay? And I remember famously, I started feeling myself. And I remember telling my toxic ex-boyfriend, oh my God, like I have abs. And he goes, yeah, they're definitely in there. Fuck you. But to be able to go to a Tone It Up event now and have like a relationship with Karina and the Tone It Up girls like Steph and China and Desiree, it was just like, it was surreal. I was so excited. And to be able to like still be part of the Tone It Up community at almost 35 when I'm like settled in myself and in such a different place of life than I was when I found them in 2014. And to feel like my relationship to wellness is like so strong and so healthy and so embodied. It was just like a really, really cool pinch me moment. And I loved meeting other Tone It Up community members. And it was just like, it was girlhood. Like we literally laughed and cried and we worked out and we meditated and it was the fucking best. And I was like, God, I wish I could do that every fucking weekend. And honestly, let that be your sign. Find some sort of live event that you can go to that like encourages community, because I probably haven't gone to like a community-driven event like that since I went to this writer's workshop in LA like 2 summers ago. But I remember going to that and being like, God, I feel so alive. And I think like in a post-COVID world, in our minds, like everything can be delivered to us with the touch of a button. Everything can live in the phone. We don't actually need to leave our houses to do fucking anything. But I think to leave your house to do something that just like feels good in your spirit and isn't attached to some sort of like output related, I don't know, like thing. Like it has nothing to do with like a result. It's just about feeling good and being there and showing up and being with other people. I think that is so beautiful. And I really think it's the secret sauce to being like a happy human being in this year of our Lord 2026. And that actually feels like a good segue. So today's episode is I feel like going into summer always feels like kind of a reflective time of year. And as I've said, it's like this week is my mom's anniversary and Mother's Day. And so like I can always feel like a little bit emotionally wobbly this time of year. I never really know how I'm going to feel. And so going into summer, like spring into summer is always like kind of weird for me because it's like I know that I should be in a good mood because like spring, summer propaganda is like, let's go find a patio. Let's like wear a cute halter top. Let's just like vibe and like go to Ibiza and like have fun with our friends. And I'm always like a little melancholia this time of year. So I'm thinking of it as a very like reflective time. And I think like that coupled with being back in therapy and really feeling like I'm peeling back the layers of some of my shit, it just has me in this very like reflective headspace. And so I've been thinking a lot about like kind of mindset shifts that I want to like work on and lean into and embrace and like take into summer. And I thought that with my sort of like obsession with like self-improvement and healthy habits, I thought it could be kind of a fun thing for us to connect on. And I want to share some things I've been noodling on as far as like hot girl mindset shifts that I want to take into summer because hopefully they'll resonate with you and be helpful. So starting with number 1, creativity. Letting creativity be flexible and treating creativity and honestly hobbies in general the way that I treat exercise. Meaning like I mentioned last week, like something is better than nothing. Letting myself be creative and letting myself do hobbies is a gift to myself rather than like a box that I have to check, otherwise I'm a fucking loser. And I've been like really butting up against this with like career stuff, with acting and writing and all the things I'm working on. I honestly never feel like I'm doing enough. I never feel like I'm as far as I want to be. And I'll put all these like really tight guardrails on like what my creative output should look like. And I'll be so hard on myself and be like, God, if you don't write like 5 days a week, then like you're not a fucking writer. Like you haven't had an audition in 2 months. So like you're not an actor and you're never going to be an actor. You're never going to like get cast in anything if you're not auditioning this many times a year. And I put all these like weird metrics on what it means to be a creative and what success as a creative looks like to me. And it's like, yes, in my dream world, I'll be able to make a living off of my creative pursuits. But like in the meantime, it's like while I'm trying to do that for a living, I think sometimes the way I talk about my creative process to myself, like almost makes me forget that the reason I'm trying to pursue it professionally is because it's so much part of who I am, and it's like my life force. Like if I'm not being creative, like I don't feel like I'm myself. And so thinking about my relationship to movement and exercise, like we were talking about last week, I was like, I think I need to apply that to how I pursue creative things. And I think I need to be like, okay, Hannah, like if all you have room for creativity wise is to like post an Instagram story, that's still something. Or like if all you have room for today is to write one page, but you didn't have an hour to sit down and write, that's fine. Or like if you write something that never sees the light of day and you just journaled and it felt good to write, that's still worthy of your time. So I'm really working on how I talk to myself about creativity and doing things that make me happy and not necessarily tying them to success and career and these like big benchmarks in order to feel like they're worth my time or worthwhile or that I'm doing it right, if that makes sense. Which brings me to my next one. Output does not equal worth. That's something I'm really working on. I've been trying to figure out why I felt so burned out lately. And I realized it was just because the level of output in my life was too much for me. And I think the word output has been a helpful like term because that covers everything. That's an umbrella term for everything. It's like that's output is like posting to Instagram, output is making a TikTok, output is writing, output is doing this podcast, but output is also jumping on a work call. Output is also hanging out with my friends and my husband. Output is anywhere where I'm putting energy out into the world, even if it's something that I really want to be doing, like spending quality time with my husband and my friends. Sometimes we have to remember that like we are all human beings at the end of the day, and there's only so much output that we can physically do at one time, in one day, or even in 1 week. And I think remembering that how much we put out there does not equal our worth is really, really important, especially given that we live in a capitalist society, especially in the United States where overworking ourselves is rewarded. I think it's really important to remember that even if you didn't check off your whole to-do list in one day, you're still worthy of love. You're still doing amazing. You're still doing the damn thing. And I think also it's like, I sometimes butt up against, okay, I'm sure I've talked about this before, but because I lost my mom young, my relationship to time is really weird. Where like in my mind, I'm like, nothing is guaranteed. Like I feel like this need to like rush into success where I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost 35 and I haven't done anything I want to do career-wise, which like isn't true. But in my head, I'm like the goalpost is always moving and I'm like, I haven't done enough. And in my mind, it's like, there's no guarantee that I'm going to make it when I'm 60 because based on my life, my mom didn't live to be 60. So in my mind, it's like, well, I can't assume that I have that long to do all of this, so I have to do it now. And it creates this sense of like panic and urgency and scarcity and this need to constantly be putting shit out to like move the needle as fast as I can to move towards the things that I want to do professionally and in my life in general. And I just think that that's such a trap because it really takes the joy out of it. And I think about all these like very popular phrases like seize the day. And I was reflecting on that too, being like, what does seize the day mean though? Like does seize the day mean I think like does seize the day mean that we have to do something productive every day? Or does seize the day just mean let's make this day what we want it to be? And I think I'm leaning towards that one, the latter, because it's like seize the day can mean, yeah, sit your ass down and like write that thing that you've been wanting to write. But it could also mean seize the day. Go to brunch with your girlfriends and get a lunch martini and giggle until you pee your pants. And I think both are important. And I think we need to make time for both. And so I think remembering that productivity and output does not equal our worth is really, really important. Running towards conflict. Okay, this is one that I'm working on with Dr. Doctor right now. I'm realizing that because of certain circumstances I grew up in, I have a tendency to shrink my feelings and just like quietly resent people and situations rather than wanting to deal with conflict and being honest about how I feel. And I have a really hard time feeling and processing negative emotions like anger and sadness. I just want to be like bubbly and happy and just kind of like internalize the negative emotions and not let them out because I feel like I'm a mess when I let them out. I feel like I'm going to be judged. I feel like it's not a safe space. Like I have a lot of my own judgments around when I feel negative feelings. So my MO, which I'm realizing like has been most of my life, has been to like internalize a lot of things, which usually results in some eventual like explosion that doesn't feel fair based on what happened, where people are like, what the fuck is this? Where is this coming from? And it's because I have not been brave enough in situations to be honest about how I feel, even if it feels small, just being brave enough to be like, I feel this way when this. And so what I'm trying to learn to do is, quote, run towards conflict, which is a term that I think I came up with, might have been Doctor. I don't really remember. As you can see, I've been in a very reflective state. But basically, like having the balls to like say the hard thing and ask my loved ones the question of like, what did you mean by that? Or this is how it made me feel. Like, was that intentional? Because it's like you don't actually do your loved ones any favors by not telling them how you feel. You rob them of the opportunity to rise to the occasion and to be there for you and to get closer to you in all of your imperfections. And I have so much data because of like past relationships and friendships that didn't work out, where in my mind, it's like, if I feel an unlikable emotion or if I'm honest about how I feel, then my friends will leave me. Then they're going to leave and it's going to be too much for them. And they're going to accuse me of being dramatic or moody or whatever. And it's like, we owe it to ourselves and to our loved ones to have the conversation and see how it goes. We owe it to ourselves to challenge our perceptions of things based on our own shit, our perceptions and projections of things based on our own shit, and let our loved ones be like, wait, I'm still here. That conversation might have been crunchy and uncomfortable, but I'm still here because I love you and we're going to figure this out. And if the worst thing happens and you're honest about how you feel and someone can't handle it and then they're gone, fuck them. Like then at least you know, then you have your answer. Then that's one less person in your life to take up space and time and energy who like you were never actually going to feel safe around. So I'm really trying to have this mindset shift of like, it's okay to run towards conflict. It's okay to give people the benefit of the doubt. And it's also like important to rewire our brains to realize that sometimes our perception of things and people and situations is in fact wrong. And it's important to challenge our limiting beliefs by being brave enough to ask the hard questions. And we can't rewire our brains and challenge our projections and perceptions of things until we're brave enough to like get out of our own heads and talk to the people close to us and ask them questions and unpack our feelings and like assess like why we feel the way we feel. And for me, sometimes I'm afraid to tell people that hurt me because sometimes it feels like so small and stupid and like, you know, I always worry that I'm going to be the friend where it's like every 2 seconds, it's like, well, that bothered me and that bothered me and that bothered me. And I think sometimes it's also important to take a beat and look inward and be like, wait, is this person's problem or is this my shit? Like, I think being able to have conversations with ourselves is important. But if it's something that like really hurt you, I think it's worth telling your friends and being honest so that you can, you know, evolve together and move forward. And I, as someone's friend, would always rather them sit me down and be like, hey, that thing you did hurt me, so that I could be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again. And I can show up for them better as a friend, as opposed to my friends quietly resenting me and then just me being like, do and having no idea that something's wrong. That's like embarrassing, you know? So running towards conflict, something I'm definitely working on. And honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to you. There have been like 3 times in the last week where I've been stewing on something, and I've been like close to being like, fuck it, I'm not gonna say something. And then I've made the phone call or I've sent the text message and I've been like, hey, I'm feeling this way. This is where I'm coming from. This is my own shit. If you're feeling some type of way, I would love to know so that we can work it out and I can be better. Can we just like have this conversation? And guess what? It's gone well 3 out of 3 times, which is not to say it always will, but it's really important data for me to know that like I can do that. I am brave enough and it's not going to end up like a shit show every single time. People will be like receptive and they'll stick around and they'll be like, thank you so much for telling me. Like, give people the benefit of the doubt and allow your people to rise to the occasion. Focusing on abundance rather than limitations. So this is kind of going back to the career stuff I was talking about, but I think because of my mom passing away when I was 26, I really felt like I was like robbed of my 20s and I was very, and honestly sometimes am very bitter that I didn't get to start my career sooner. And I struggle with these limiting beliefs of like, I'm always behind. I'm never doing enough. And like I was saying, I feel this pressure to like move at warp speed to make up for how my 20s were just spent like, you know, taking my mom to appointments, processing the fact that I was going to lose her, and then dealing with the fallout of losing her, which resulted in me like very much like floundering and feeling aimless and dicking around and being in toxic relationships and friendships and fully ignoring any ambitions I had and just playing very small in my life. So I think now I have this tendency to like focus on like, damn, like it's just so unfair that I didn't get to start sooner. It's so unfair that I didn't get to move to LA sooner. It's so unfair that I couldn't pursue my career when I was in my 20s like so many of my peers. And I think it's like I'm at a point where I am kind of sick of thinking that way because it's like, okay, yeah, it's unfair, but like it's the hand you were dealt, babe. So like, what are we going to do with it? As opposed to focusing on what we don't have, let's focus on what we do have, where it's like, well, you're in LA now and you have a cool, stable life and you have people who love you and you have irons in the fire and you're doing shit. So let's focus on that as opposed to what we didn't get to do in our 20s. And I think that that's a very common thing. I think it's really easy to focus on what we lack, especially in a world where people are constantly flexing their trips and their wealth and their relationships and their vacation homes all over Instagram. And let's get into this. I think summer, I say this every year, summer is like the New Year's Eve of seasons where it just feels like everyone's like flexing, like how much fun they're having for like 3 months straight. And it can be really triggering and it can be really hard. So going into summer, I really want to force myself to focus on abundance, like what I have, as opposed to what I don't. And sometimes what helps me do that is I will, two things. One that I've definitely talked about before, but since we have some new listeners, I definitely want to repeat it. Sometimes when I'm falling asleep, if I'm feeling like anxious and I don't feel good about like myself or my life, I'll imagine myself taking my like 5th grade self to dinner at her favorite restaurant. And it's like the Bruce Willis movie, The Kid, where we're like sitting across from each other and she's like, wait, my life is what? Wait, I live in LA? That's my husband. He's so cute. Wait, that's my dog. That's my cat. And every time I do that, I just remember that my younger self is so excited and so proud of me and would be so hyped to live the life I'm living, even if I never get my feature film made, even if this is as far as I get it. Like, this is really fucking cool. So that's something that helps me when I'm trying to find abundance. And also, kind of like zooming out and like imagining if I were like stalking myself on Instagram. This might be toxic, but whatever. Sometimes I imagine if I were to stalk myself on Instagram, like what I would think. And again, I would be like, that girl seems really happy. That girl's got a cool life. Good for her. Cute dog. I like that outfit. And it kind of like takes me out of my own head and I'm like, oh, everything's fine. Just because I don't have this big dream that's over there doesn't mean A, I'm not taking little steps towards it. And B, doesn't mean that none of this is good enough or none of this matters. Like, life is still good, even if we have things that we want to accomplish that we haven't accomplished yet. So let's all like work on focusing on abundance this summer. If we can't go to Greece with all the influencers, we can go to Greek food with our best friends. And that's still fucking fun. And that makes life amazing. Good segue into my next one, remembering that fun is not frivolous. This is just like a TED Talk about my obsession with productivity, but I don't think I'm alone in that. So I think it's worth our time. Fun is not frivolous. I think it's really easy to be like, oh, I, need to be productive all the time. I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, but fun is part of it, right? Like, I think we can lock into the work side of our lives better when we let ourselves have fun, when we let ourselves blow off steam, when we let ourselves rest, when we let ourselves do things just for us that fills our cup and isn't directly related to our jobs, our career, our dreams, our productivity. Fun is not frivolous. When we are 95 years old, we are not going to remember the spreadsheets we wrote. We're going to remember the memories we made with ourselves and the people we love. And so taking yourself on a walk and listening to that perfect playlist that makes you feel like a fucking baddie, putting on that jacket that you love that you feel like is too nice to wear the fucking jacket. Make your life fun because it's not frivolous. It makes it worth it. It makes the tough times better and the good times even more amazing. And it honestly like all adds to this big picture of like wanting to live like a big, juicy, sexy, full life. And life is not about just checking boxes. It's about actually living it. So that's something I'm bringing into summer for sure. And then finally, identifying values and sticking to them. So again, like in this sort of reassessment of like myself and how I behave in my relationships and how I want to handle like my people in my life, my friendships, my marriage, my family, I'm realizing that values of mine that are really important are honesty and vulnerability. And those are two things that matter a lot to me. They're two things that I want to feel like I'm allowed to do in my relationships. And they're things that I want people in my life to feel like they can do with me. And so I'm realizing that the friendships and relationships that haven't worked out are the ones where like we couldn't see eye to eye on those things. And to kind of sum up everything I've been saying, I think when you identify your values and you stick to them and you lead by example, you are automatically going to weed out the people and the jobs and the things that are not in alignment with who you are. And the universe is going to clear space to bring the right people and jobs and things towards you. And I think the second you behave in a way that's not in alignment with your values, you're going to feel icky and you're going to attract the wrong things. And even if it seems sparkly and sexy and shiny on paper, whether it's a person or a job or whatever, it's ultimately not going to feel right in your spirit because it's not in alignment with who you actually are. So I think getting good at knowing when we're pushing, knowing when we're convincing ourselves that something is working or that it's okay when we know in our gut it's not in alignment with our values is really important. But to do that, I think we need to get really, really clear on what our values are across the board. And so even being able to articulate like honesty and vulnerability, those are two non-negotiables in my relationships. All my close friends and my family members that I'm close with are people who do those things in one way or another and make it safe for me to do those things. Even if sometimes it's clumsy, even if sometimes we miss each other and there's a misunderstanding, those are things that the people that I'm close to also value. And so I think like having really frank conversations with ourselves and be like, these are my things that matter to me and I'm not going to waver on them and I'm going to make them clear by how I behave and how I act is only going to attract other people and things that are in alignment with those values. And that's important. And it's a very empowering place to be when you realize, when you look around and you're like, wait, that friendship breakup was so painful, but like everyone who's left like gets it. Yes, sometimes again, you're going to misunderstand each other and you have to have conversations like I was saying, but like overall, it's like, I don't have to like reinvent the wheel with any of these people or these jobs. These are things in my life that get me and that I get. And that's a really beautiful, empowering place to be. And I want it for all of us. So those are my mindset shifts that I'm working on. Those are my mindset shifts that I'm taking into summer. I hope that they resonate. And please DM me and let me know if any of those struck a chord with you. I really hope that they did. Now to wrap things up, let's get into Grow Up and Hannah's Hot Girl Corner. So starting with Hannah's Hot Girl Corner, I was lucky enough to be gifted the Sunny Sunday Mineral Serum. Okay, this product is amazing. It is an SPF 50 plus serum that comes in a dropper. The packaging is so chic. And it's this really gorgeous, lightweight, like mineral sunscreen serum that's paraben free. It's reef safe, super lightweight, really blendable. It just like sinks into the skin. There's no white cast. And I just like love how it applies under makeup. Like it doesn't make my makeup muddy or greasy at all. It just like really nicely absorbs into the skin. And listen, I'm girly pop at the end of the day. The packaging is so cute. And I love that it's in a dropper. So you use just the right amount. And it honestly like it makes putting on sunscreen feel like this elevated part of my skincare routine. And I truly believe that like when something feels fun and when it's like pretty to take out of your cabinet and like apply, that you're more likely to remember to do it. And we all have to be wearing sunscreen every single day, all year round, but especially in the summer when we're all spending time outside. We cannot forget. And this is not an ad. I was so grateful to be gifted this product and I've really, really been loving it. So check them out. Sunny Sunday Mineral Serum. Shout out to the Sunny team and thank y'all so much for sending me that product. I linked it in the show notes if you want to give it a try. And now let's get into Grow Up. Okay, I love that this whole episode like was started off with me being a bitch. Then I got really like love and light, like therapy-y, like thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And now we're going to bookend it with me being a bitch because that feels right. So Grow Up, letting your kid wander around a restaurant and making it my problem. Oh my God. Okay, listen. I know within the last couple weeks, I was finally like, okay, guys, like I want to be a mom. We can all just like we can all cut the shit. We can all just admit that I, Hannah Aaron Brown, want to be a mom someday. Something I will never let my kid do. And I know people who are moms are going to be like, well, you don't know until you're a mom. But I do because I know that my parents, they were not perfect, but they would never let me do this shit. Yesterday, Alex and I were at Erewhon. An unrelatable way to start a story, but walk with me here. We were at Erewhon. Alex treated me to lunch. We had spent a small fortune after the gorgeous Tone It Up event on sushi, breakfast burrito, multiple salads. Like we're living our best life. This little boy, so our table is like at the edge of like a patio and then there's like bushes and dirt and it's like a tiny crack between the edge of our table and the bushes and the dirt. And this little boy is walking back and forth as if it's like a fucking playground, like right next to our table. And I found it to be really annoying, respectfully. And I don't blame the child. I'm like, where the fuck is your mom? And why are your parents letting you walk around a patio like it's a jungle gym? I don't understand it. And I found it to be, this is an unrelatable unlikable story, but I have to speak my truth, okay? I think as far as the parents go, grow up. Teach your child to sit their butt in the seat or pack up your shit and go. And I'm sorry, I know gentle parenting is a thing, but when I'm a mom, I'm not going to let my kid be running around restaurants like they own the place. It's just not appropriate. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound like Countess Luann in like seasons 1 and 2 of Roni, but I just think, darling, I just think it's quite inappropriate. And that's how I feel. So to the parents of that child, to the parents of children running around restaurants, acting like it's a playground, grow up. Ugh. Get them a coloring book, sit their ass down, and, let's bring it back to the 90s. Let's simplify it. Give them some crayons and a coloring book and be like, if you're not going to do that, we got to go. Like, come on. I'm sorry if I alienated any of my mom listeners. I know someday I'll be in your shoes and I might listen back to this episode and be like, what was I thinking? But I don't know, TBD. Let's all remember this moment together and cut to however many years from now, I'll probably be eating my words. But anyway, y'all, that's our show today. I hope you're all having an amazing week. I'm wishing you all a glorious Mother's Day. Speaking of moms, if you are a mom, I hope you have an amazing day, whatever that looks like for you, whether it means hanging out with your kids and your significant others or not, whatever it looks like, I hope you have a fabulous day. Thank you for all you do. And if you're not a mom, if you want to be a mom but you're not yet, if you have some crunchy feelings around motherhood or your mom or you miss your mom, if you're like me and you're missing your mom, I am sending love to all of you too. Love and hugs. And however we're feeling, we're going to make it through. It's one day and we all got this. If you love the podcast, leave it a rating and a review. Send this episode to a friend. If you feel like it, follow me at Hannah Aaron Brown on Instagram and TikTok. You can watch full episodes on YouTube anytime. And yeah, I think that's all for me. I love y'all. Thank you so much for listening and I'll see you soon. Bye.